Hey guys, first regardsman here, and today I'll be talking about all the balance changes you want to see in patch 9.0 Space Marine 2. Now, about a week ago, I did put out a community post asking people what balance changes they wanted to see in 9.0, and about 160 comments are on this thread now, so it is time to read through every single one of them. Now, number one, we have Doc Pickles 2678 saying, any nerf to the damn Biovores. Biovores in Space Marine 2 are kind of a pain in the ass right now. Like, their little charge attack they do when they move and knock you over is incredibly obnoxious. That's like the biggest nerf I want to them. The Spore Mines were definitely worse before patch 8.0, but now they're not too bad because they do have a 55% reduced explosion damage. That's really not too bad, but Biovores in general are still very obnoxious, way too tanky at times, and I give this one a heart. Definitely an obnoxious enemy. Now, Oberon says, reasonable body shot damage, game is too over-reliant on headshots. I think this is true, and a lot of like the bolt weapons kind of suck for this reason, because if like an enemy is turning its body against you, especially things like a Hellbrute, some of the weapons just fall off entirely, and that's why Melta and Plasma can be very strong at times, because AoE is not only king, but sort of like things that can do damage through body shots. So definitely a reasonable take here. Also, fixed contested health recovery for melee weapons. True, there is a cap on contested health recovery for melee weapons, and ranged weapons are far better for this reason, and it's really obnoxious. Like the CHP regen in this game is kind of shit to begin with. He also says fixed enemy attack order, so I'm not forced to dodge Ravener and Carnifex charge at the same time, or a Neurothrow pulse and Elictor attack chain. I don't really think this is that big of an issue, to be honest. I think it's just part of like you have to work with your team for these things. It's kind of annoying in solo, but the game is really built around solo, so for that reason I don't think it needs to be that changed, to be honest. It's not too bad. Number 4, he says, a buff to C and B tier weapons. They're low-key kind of underpowered. It is so much easier to win in Siege or Ops using a Stalker Bolt Rifle than it is in Heavy Bolt Rifle, because the power gap between A and B or lower is huge. Bolt weapons like the Heavy Bolt Rifle, Auto Bolt Rifle, and Bolt Rifle need a buff, and other stuff like the Neo Volkite or Inferno do too. I don't want to be forced to play a meta build just so my gameplay experience is in hell. Number 5, perk loadouts. I'm going to cover both of these here. So yeah, the weapons are in A and like S tier are so much better than the weapons below them. It's kind of shocking, especially for like CHP regen. Pretty much every automatic bolt weapon in this game is mid, unless it's like the bolt carbine, and that does kind of suck. So hopefully we do see a buff in that for those weapons in the patch 9.0. As far as perk loadouts go, yeah, if you're unaware, this game does not change your perk loadout between the loadout stations, and that's just like a mandatory change this game needs, especially for Siege mode where you're forced to fight both Chaos and Tyranids, because there are some perk loadouts that only function versus some enemy types in this game, or even with only like some of the weapons. So definitely a necessary change there for sure. Also, fixed block weapons at damage bonus and AoE stagger / damage. Yes, this too, because block weapons no longer apply the parry bonus. And also official Hello Kitty Slay Marines and daily FTG streams. Daily FTG streams may come one day. Official Hello Kitty Slay Marines is up to Games Workshop. Perk loadouts, for fuck's sake, definitely here, Brandon. I agree entirely with both of you that perk loadouts are mandatory in this game. They said that was not a priority for them when the game came out initially, and really that's just bullshit, because perk loadouts are such a fundamental function of pretty much any horde shooter, especially when we had them in games like 10 years ago. So perk loadouts for sure need to be changed with like the loadout stations. I want 9.0 to drop with absolutely no bugs or issues. That will be a miracle. That will be a miracle, and hopefully we see that, but I'm not going to hold my breath. A buff assault jump pack dash should either be his default dodge, costing no charge. He should have the campaign jump pack. You do not actually want the assault jump pack dash to be his default dodge, because there are some points where like you don't want to move that far, but it should have like the built-in commitment signature perk in, and like that should be a passive in my opinion. It shouldn't be like built into his signature perk tree. It's very stupid. He's a perk rework for sure. And for the Emperor's sake, give him some damage reduction and ammo refill. This is definitely true. Like, damage reduction and ammo refill would fix a lot of the problems on Assault, because he would be pretty strong with like a healing perk, but healing is not as valuable as armor regen, damage reduction, and just like ammo conservation, especially in Siege mode. Because if you are a class in the Siege mode that does not have a good ammo economy, you are going to be eating into the requisition points for your team way more than classes that do have a good ammo economy. So for that reason, he really does need like auxiliary reload or something like that in his perk tree. Otherwise, a bit of a noob thing, but consistent attack warnings would be nice. I don't think they're that bad in this game. There are very few attacks that don't have a consistent attack warning in this game. Increase the HP recovery for melee weapons, buff Aftershock, buff Inferno Pistol, make Dread cheaper or last longer. Auto Bolt Rifle perk tree needs a complete rework. Increase coin reward for late waves so it can be more fun. Using Astartes reinforcements more often will make it more fun. I do agree that Astartes reinforcements right now are so much stronger than the Dreadnought is. The Dreadnought is pretty much like only there to push to higher waves when the timer is going to time you out, and that's like the biggest reason it's used currently. And the Astartes reinforcements do like insane damage in this game and have insanely strong buffs, and they are so cheap. Like you can buy 6 for 600 requisition points, and a Dreadnought costs 1500. Definitely true, the Dreadnought is too expensive right now, and he only lasts for 3 minutes, which is like way too little for like what he actually does. Increase CHP recovery for melee weapons, I definitely agree with this. Buff Aftershock, I definitely agree with this. Aftershock is like the hardest thing to pull off in this entire game for any melee weapon, and it does basically jack shit for damage compared to like a Power Fist cleaving range attack, so for sure buff that. And buffing the Inferno Pistol gun strike damage is like step 1 for sure. Assault rework, Biovore changes, siege balance, perk loadout options for max 25 levels. Also on Assault rework, if they don't want to go full rework, give him the perk option to equip a primary weapon. This would kind of fix a lot of his issues here if he had like a bolt carbine or something at times, even like a plasma incinerator, because if he was able to shoot a primary weapon like he can in campaign as Titus, that would make his CHP recovery significantly better. He would still use some like damage reduction, that would be a really good addition to him as well, but a primary weapon would be pretty cool for him. And even though other classes like the Bulwark don't have a primary weapon and they're just fine, that's mainly because their perk tree is just way better. But yeah, Assault definitely needs like a jump pack rework among many other things. He's definitely been in a bad spot since the game launched, mainly against Chaos, but really if your class is kind of mid against one of like the 2 factions in your entire game, that's pretty bad. Now next guy says, I'd like Tactical to have the Auspex damage buffs applied to perfect blocks and parry again. It makes the class feel really good. Battle Focus was kind of OP before. It's still very strong to apply like a base Auspex to guys on a parry and perfect block, but I can definitely see why you might not like the change that much. I have moved over to like precise calibration instead of battle focus for the most part, but they're both like equivalent perks, which is kind of the whole point of having multiple options in a perk tree. And I don't feel like the battle focus buff was like unnecessary, because let's be real, battle focus is like the most busted combo in this game with concentrate fire for a long time, and like the only thing that was more busted than that was like the other combo with the pre-nerf grenade launcher. They should balance out the complete lack of servers, definitely true. A buff Thunderhammer through the roof, definitely true. I would like to see a buff to sniper rifles so they can pierce through leaves. Hopefully one day they could pierce geometry, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. I don't even think like Saber Interactive has even like registered that's the thing that they want to do in this game, and they don't really care about a lot of the individual weapons for sure. A bolt weapon change that removes penetration and buffs the damage so that they all feel more viable at higher difficulties. I love the auto bolt and bolt rifle, but this feel very underwhelming compared to plasma weapons. I don't think a Tyranid warrior should be able to eat 35 rounds to the face and live. Yeah, you do have to play some pretty gimmicky setups, especially on like mainly the tactical, with things like the bolt carbine to properly just like annihilate headshots on the Tyranid warriors. And I feel like a lot more of the bolt weapons should just be powerful for the headshots and body shots for that reason. They'd feel a lot better if they were. And we've clearly seen in siege mode they can send more enemies than what we see in absolute difficulties. So maybe buffing the enemies up a bit in absolute wouldn't be too bad, but like that's not a bad point for sure. Ability to turn off the shield while performing finishers as a heavy, 3 jetpack charges for assault, 3 ability layouts to choose mid operation slash siege. Yeah, perk loadouts for sure. People keep mentioning this. I'm glad they are, because if Saber ever does actually watch any videos from anybody on this game, everyone should bitch about the perk loadouts not being in the game, because that's kind of mandatory for any horde shooter in my opinion, especially if you have like a loadout station, because just swapping guns when there are perks in this game that only function with one gun is ridiculous. As far as 3 jetpack charges for assault goes, I don't think that's a bad idea. Like he would definitely benefit from that, but like for now I would just want damage reduction and maybe healing, or just really anything that's going to up his survivability, because the biggest thing with assault is that his damage is not horrific by any means. His mobility is quite good. He just gets nuked far more easily than any of the other melee classes, especially because he has less damage reduction than them on top of less healing. Ability to turn off the shield performing finishers is a heavy. Yeah, this is very obnoxious, because not having you, because sometimes like you'll have your shield up, you'll do a finisher and it'll just drain for no reason. You're stuck in the animation. Very obnoxious. I like to see them make body shots more viable with bolt guns, where if you hit a body shot, it's not like you missed a shot. Yeah, basically it's like you missed a shot. It's a great way to put it for sure. I'll give you a heart for that, because that's a great summary of what it feels like to shoot a body shot currently. But yeah, bolt guns, their headshot viability needs to be like toned down a little bit, and just have some other things like body shots be viable too, I think. It also make it a lot better for some of the console players, where like it's hard to hit headshots for some people. And, you know, not everybody's like a Quake Quake player and like head clicking 24/7, and this might make it feel better for them. And automatic weapons are kind of like the Daka Daka machine anyways, and making them like only headshot viable is pretty obnoxious. Pause CHP degradation when you're actively damaging enemy in melee. Fix the damage bonus on perfect block, for fuck's sake. I would definitely say, yeah, fix the damage bonus on perfect block. Pausing CHP degradation when you're actively damaging enemies in melee would be very, very strong. I feel like it'd be better just like up the actual CHP regen these weapons get, because having a damage, like an HP fall off, is fine, because really you're only taking damage for the most part, like taking significant damage if you fuck up, and like that should be a punishment. But like the CHP regen is just like not quite there currently for where it should be on the melee weapons. Nerf Biovores and Spores into the ground, fix the stunlock problem, buff HP in a way that not only lasts a percentage of our HP should be strong, but from 50%. I don't know, like HP is already pretty strong in this game as it is. Fix the stunlock problem. That's mainly a problem with like triple Hellbirds and stuff. I imagine they'll get toned down at some point. And Biovores are already incredibly obnoxious with like their little dash attack and knockover. It's like the biggest problem with them. And Spores already got nerfed, so I don't really think that's big of an issue. Like I don't think Spore Mines are that bad at all in Space Marine 2 currently. Power Fantasy to the maximum. Everything should melt anything. I don't really agree with this, because there has to be some semblance of balance in a game. Otherwise, your hardest difficulty becomes impossible to balance. And like you do run into that issue where like Havoc 40 on Darktide, for example, is trying to become like an absolute just like clusterfuck of enemies on your screen, because that's the only way that they can actually have the builds that are currently strong in the game struggle with anything unless they do like a massive nerf. A lock hard siege mode behind level and prestige cap. Example, minimum prestige 2 and level 25 class, less on either, and cannot match make into hard mode siege should be locked. That and reduce the cost of everything in siege mode across the board, especially Dreadnought deployment, and make block weapons great again. Well, block weapons are still very powerful. They just do have a bug with them currently, but they're still the best weapons overall in the game. Lock hard siege mode behind a level and prestige cap. This is definitely true. Like there's no reason a low level should be in hard siege mode. At least like if they want to play in private mode, that's fine, but like a matchmaking into it with no team perks should just not be possible. Get rid of coins needed for resetting prestige perks. Buff Thunderhammer through the roof. Make Assault Jump Pack recharge 5 times faster. That's a little excessive. Make Assault Jump Pack recharge on perfect dodge as default. This is definitely true. I think this should be changed. Assault gets health and armor back on non-lethal gun strikes as a default. Getting health and armor back on non-lethal gun strikes would be fucking OP as shit. But like as a default perk, that would be insane. Armor reinforcement is one of the best perks in this game already, and I don't really agree with that at all. It'd be way too strong of a buff. But a heavy bolter buff. Heavy bolter is already pretty damn good. Minorists die immediately from any source of damage. A bolter round should turn them into miss anyway. Again, this should just make the game pretty fucking easy to clear out any horde versus enemies. Like at some point, there is like a you have to think about game balance over just lore accuracy. But remove Biovores and minigun terminators from the game. They are not fun. I don't really think you should remove enemies from the game at all. It's just like rebalance them. Buff Inferno, Neo Volkite pistol through the roof. Definitely. Neo Volkite isn't actually that bad. It's just it's a contested HP recovery kind of sucks currently. That's like the biggest issue. But Inferno pistol definitely sucks. After getting stunned, there should be a 2-second cooldown to prevent stun locking. I think it depends on the enemy. If grabbed, contested health should not drain while speedrunning carpal tunnel syndrome. Yeah, this is true, because you can actually break out. This is actually a good point here. You can break out of the grapples in this game, like the grabs they do. It just takes like a super specialized controller to do so, and like 99% of people, especially on PC, just because of the button layout, will never actually click the buttons fast enough to do that, and most people don't even see it happen. So it's just like a guaranteed HP drain, and the quick time event basically means nothing. Remove XP gain from siege mode. I don't agree with that at all. And finally, buff the amount of crashes and performance issues. I want more technical issues saver, more, I say. Yeah, the buff the amount of crashes and performance issues, interesting take, but yeah, they are pretty bad right now. That's a joke, but for sure. Make NID only and chaos only options for siege mode. Not a bad take at all. Buff assault and give some form of contested health recovery. Definitely true. Buff the bulwarks banner in ways that make it more team buff oriented than an HP recovery flag. I would also like Neo Volkite to be buffed so it is viable at higher levels of play. Maybe more gun strike damage or bigger AoE or both. The AoE that applies is only on like one of the perks that applies like a heat to all the enemies around it rather than like an outright AoE. But that heat can make enemies detonate, so that's like the AoE kind of has. And as far as like having the bulwarks banner be more of a team buff oriented than a HP recovery flag, it's kind of both. Like Purity of Purpose is super strong for holding a line and like holding back a huge triple boss threat. Very, very powerful for that reason. Very good for setting up Auspex and stuff like that. But the Bulwark banner for sure, like it could use a rework, because just having an HP recovery flag is kind of lame, but also the HP recovery flag is like the best perk in this game on the Bulwark currently, so I don't know if people want that removed. I know it's not balanced, but I want all armor to be fully modular and each piece can be individually colored. Also, to make the colors consistent, Abaddon Black looks a different shade depending where it is placed, and it's so aggravating. This is true. Some of the colors in this game on the armor pieces, they have a different color depending on like what armor they're like, what arm they're on. Like if it's on the Inquisitor arms, their arms just look really, really weird. Some of the colors, it's very stupid. I don't know why they did it that way. As far as having everything be fully modular, they do have more overhead at Saber than like mod authors do, but they did talk about actually doing this, so that might be coming. My Wet Dream completely reworked weapon perk tree system, allowing for more experimentation with builds, including free selection of any perks. Some perks should simply be unlocked with increased rarity, charge speed, low HP perks, etc. For ranged weapons, reserve ammo should be tied entirely to weapon rarity. Master of weapons, we should be rewarded for having higher mastery with weapons, and let's face it, it's not hard to level these at all. It's definitely not anymore. They did this in World War Z with ammo and damage, and it's mind-boggling why they didn't in Space Marine 2. Make it so ammo reserve is mostly tied to using the weapons more. The ammo reserve, or excuse me, the ammo version should instead provide a much larger magazine size. For melee weapons, just make stuff straight upgrades. Yeah, melee weapons could just have like straight upgrades, but especially the weapon perk trees in this game are pathetic. There are a lot of like non-choices, which is like, okay, I'm taking a chainsaw and I want to win. I will be taking swift recovery, period, and like all other perks and like the top tree from there are just worse fundamentally. So they need to like do a big perk rework this patch 9.0 on the weapon perk trees again. Maybe they'll actually listen to people at some point. Maybe someone should make like a proper list on like what would be good. But like a huge part of this is just that Saber Interactive has no creativity in how to make perks in this game, and they don't even know what good perks are, and for the most part, and like their ideas like what is a strong or bad perk, I'm pretty sure just reading a spreadsheet for the most part, but like definitely not a bad idea, Sturm. Add a second XP bar for prestige and let me stay at level 25. I only had one person come back to place in the siege mode drop because they're not leveling again ever. People say it's not that bad, but not that bad isn't a reason to play, it's a reason to stop. I don't know, I like prestige systems. I don't really care about being a level 1, but level 25, just having people sit there, I don't think that's a bad change if they want to do that. Better parry windows for Thousand Suns Marines. Their parry windows are not that bad at all. Ammo regen for assault, whether it's like the Tacticals mag on majority kill with a cooldown or like heavy and bulwarks on extremis finisher mag. Yeah, ammo regen for assault is kind of mandatory. Also, ammo regen for Vanguard. Both those classes have terrible ammo economy, and any class with terrible ammo economy just eats into requisition points on siege mode. They really didn't think that one through all that much. A weak spot on the back of Biovores, like a sports sack to make it feel rewarding to get behind them, and chaos units not being able to shoot through each other anymore. And actually, yeah, that's actually a good point. Chaos units do shoot through each other all the time. As far as a weak spot on the back of Biovores, like a Spore Stack to make it feel more rewarding, that would be kind of interesting. Biovores are really stupid. Like when they are planted in the ground as artillery, they're basically immortal for like 99% of attacks. Even for like equipment, like you have to wait for them to get up for a Melt-A-Bomb to kill them. So like Biovores just feel way too tanky, and like you can't really do much unless they let you. Like the worst part about them. And Chaos units, yeah, their range spam is pretty obnoxious. Make the game run properly again. Fix the crappy code that makes it so you constantly crash or have delayed inputs. I don't really have this as a problem at all in this game. I have reinstalled and done all the so-called troubleshooting. Also fixed the matchmaking in this game. Loading someone's game, having 200 plus ping is a joke. I've had that happen a couple of times. It is true that can happen for sure. Or having someone load to your absolute games at level 1 expecting to carry for XP. Just make certain things level cap. Definitely true here, Fridge Picker. Remove experience in hard siege mode. Give it a level cap of 25. Can you imagine how bad it will be with the Tech Marine dropping? Yes, when the Tech Marine drops, I don't know if Saber Interactive is even going to think about the fact that like, wait a second, there's like a level lock or like a class lock in this game, like only one person can play the same class. Well, every single human being that is probably going to be playing the Space Marine 2 launch of Tech Marine is probably going to be wanting to play Tech Marine. Now, when Darktide dropped at the Arbites launch, this doesn't really matter because Darktide has no like class lock. You can play as many class types of, like, you can play as many of the same class types as you want per game, so everyone could play Arbites if they wanted to. But like Tech Marine in this game, we'll see what they do. Unfortunately, they'll probably do nothing, and everyone will just be unable to actually play Tech Marine unless they find somebody to level them. That's kind of unfortunate. There's a really long list, but on top, okay, well, hold on, before I open this up, all right, it's not that much of a dissertation, that's good, because it's not that I hate the paragraphs, guys, it's just that eventually my voice gets tired with how long they are. There's a really long list, but on top, we need quality of life reworks, like being able to attach specific perk trees to your loadout, being able to add friends so you don't have to send a code every time you want to play with a friend, not on the same platform. I don't play with like anybody from Xbox or like PlayStation, so I don't have this issue, but I can definitely see that'd be annoying. Fat Shark does have have like an in-game social system for that reason, so pretty good for that. Should probably implement that into Space Marine 2 at some point. Contested health / stagger rework, so you aren't forced into losing all your contested health after getting grabbed by a Ravener or sniped by someone who is aiming at your teammate. I'd like buffs for the Melta weapons, especially for the pistol, piece of hot garbage. I'd also like the enemies in the higher difficulty not get so much health back, because it feels like I'm shooting too long to get a kill sometimes. Edit, for the love of God, give Assault the story jump pack and just wall off what we shouldn't access. I should look forward to using the character, not despise using him just because I've overused everyone else. The Assault class, in the Astartes overhaul, he does have the campaign jump pack, and it works like pretty much completely fine. I don't know why it's not in this version of the game. His cooldown should be higher, like maybe I should lower the ground pound damage a little bit, but like honestly, with how strong classes like Heavy are, it would take a lot to break Assault for sure. So Assault could use buff. Like, you know, wow, like talk about a broken record, but Assault could definitely use buff. Crazy take. But loadout perk options and to make most equipment and ammo / health regain into team perks so it doesn't polarize the classes too much. More pronounced perks for different builds, like more perks for melee builds as a sniper, and more distinct perks for each way of playing. Bolt rifle playstyle needs their own perks, even if they might have the best set of perks to go in and out of stealth, but Stalker Bolt Rifle and Bolt Carbine lacks any perks that makes the build unique. And I guess this is the problem with all the classes when thinking of it. Yeah, the perk trees in this game are very, very lame. Like, they really have no ingenuity to them whatsoever. Assault Overhaul, and specifically add a perk that buffs the Inferno Pistol's range and damage by like 500%. This is basically useless on him. Yeah, people talk all the time about the Inferno Pistol having like the 20% melee damage buff, but like losing your secondary for that is awful, and your secondary weapon is your best contested health recovery on the Assault to begin with. So yeah, like the Inferno Pistol is pretty shit on the Assault class for sure. Perk loadouts definitely, and a little extra to Assault to make him as reliable as any other class in the higher tiers of Siege mode. Now, part of this is that like post wave 25 on the Siege mode, they have like a stopgap, an intentional stopgap, where they buff the damage reduction and damage of the enemies so much because they don't actually want you to get to like wave 30 plus, because they really just want you to like crash out and die before the game actually crashes itself, which is kind of shitty, but we'll see what they do eventually when they fix the timer. But yeah, perk loadouts definitely need to be in this game 100%. I don't want to nerf the armor regen bulwark or grenade tactical, but the other team perks would need a huge buffs to even compete. A big buff to accuracy / headshot bonus to the regular pistol, definitely true. It does need like way more. Honestly, guys, if the regular bolt pistol had infinite ammo in this game, it would still be the worst. That's just how bad it is right now. Inferno pistol needs a rework. Maybe let it apply the heat debuff like Neovolkite by AoE spray style instead of precision like the actual Neovolkite. Really, the Inferno pistol should just hit like a truck and like have barely any ammo. Like hit like a truck, be like a little pocket melta, a proper pocket melta, and have insane gun strike damage and like a reduced range, because that would make it very fun to use and pretty damn strong, even like some of the melee classes, but right now it's just ass. In general, maybe bump up cleave or speed on balanced melee to incentivize people to leave fencing or block. Yeah, this is true that the cleave and speed on most of the balanced weapons in this game are awful, and the fact it has a negative frame startup is horrendous, so people pretty much only take fencing or block because they both have 0 frame startups. And as far as like nerfing the armor regen bulwark or grenade tactical might get nerfed to like a 90-second cooldown, but like honestly, the grenade tactical perk with secure stockpile right now is insanely strong, much stronger even like the armor regen bulwark is, which is kind of crazy because armor regen bulwark is pretty cracked. But yeah, for sure, I hope to see some other team perk buffs, because like some of them really need it. Like things like precision targeting on the sniper are just so bad that I've seen like one person take it in 2,000 hours. Awful perk. Raise the cap for requisition points. It makes no sense to earn reward worth more than you can actually hold, especially in hard siege. Lower the prestige respec cost and allow customized perks for each loadout slot. A global XP buff after completing prestige 4 would be awesome. Something like plus 10% XP per complete class would really help ease the grind. This is actually a great idea, because going from like class to class like no XP buff is very obnoxious, and there are times, it's actually happened to Milk and Cookies yesterday when we were playing with him, that he got to level 24 assault, and he was like, he had to do an entire operation to actually get to level 25 assault. It's just a waste of time at that point for most people. It's like turn down your difficulty. So for sure, a global XP buff would be far better. Fix the Vanguard grapple and execute bugs. They've been broken for a while and affect core gameplay. Also, please don't nerf secure stockpile. It's one of the most useful and satisfying perks. I don't really know what my opinion on secure stockpile being nerfed is. Like, they should buff other perks, but like secure stockpile, it probably does deserve like a 90-second cooldown instead of a 60-second, if we're being honest. Fix the Vanguard grapple and execute bugs, this is definitely true. The zone of impact tactical prowess spam needs to be fixed. It bugs out all the time. It's like his only proper horde clear on that class outside of melted bombs, and without it, the Vanguard's kind of like left like dead in the water, because that's pretty much all of his high impact on like the higher waves, which is kind of unfortunate. 2 more mags for the semi-auto bolt carbine. I'm happy, to be honest. Yes, I think definitely needs more ammunition. Perk loadouts, cross-platform friends list, halt CHP drain when stun locked. Maybe not halt it, but like maybe you could like slow it down or just prevent the stun locks, or like make the knockback perks work more effectively. But yeah, that's definitely not a bad idea. I mean, to adjust the class challenges in siege mode, some challenges can't be done by certain loadouts. Example, double plasma tactical can't get headshots done. I mean, that is true. Bulwark with hammer can't block melee damage with a shield. Really, this one sucks to do with a shield anyways. You don't want to be doing that. You want to perfect block or parry or dodge. Yeah, the Bulwark losing his shield on the Thunder Hammer makes the Thunder Hammer like automatically the worst weapon on the Bulwark. Animation canceling instantaneously is like one of the most powerful things the Bulwark can do, and really any class can do in this game. Period. That is like one of the most absurd war gear options in the whole game. And that's not even including the like blocking range attacks with masterful defense and your banner back automatically. The shield on the Bulwark is just so damn strong, and the Thunder Hammer loses it entirely and gets basically fucking nothing, which is kind of unfortunate. Bulwark again sucks with another challenge requiring parrying, meaning do it with block power fist is impossible. It's not actually impossible. I know the one you're talking about. You just have to like perfect block and then perfect dodge immediately after, which can be done on things like Raveners. I just want the game to be in a playable state. Not only is horde mode broken, but the game will not queue up a multiplayer match even after finding players. I don't play PvP in this game at all, so I have no idea about that. Power Sword on Tactical is my biggest wish that I think could actually happen. Power Sword should be on Tactical for sure. It's also like lore accurate that a Tactical would have that. A change I want is for Assault Jetpack perfect dodge perks to work off of regular perfect dodges, likely as balance, reducing the charges to one so that encourages a perfect dodges playstyle. I mean, he already has a perfect dodge playstyle. I don't know, I think that'd be a little too strong, to be honest. I like to see them fix the damn block weapons. AoE Explosion hasn't worked in several months. 8.0 broke the 2.2 second pair such block enemy debuff on block weapons, and the staggers and triggering properly on melee terminators. It does trigger on the melee terminators, you just have to hit them twice. It's kind of always been that way. I don't know if it's intentional or not. Maybe it is a bug, but it's really not that bad, to be honest, on like most of the block weapons. It does kind of suck on like the power fist though. Besides that, give Assault its own version of purification, and give it and Vanguard some kind of reliable ammo regen. Definitely true. They both need that for sure. As far as block weapon AoE Explosion, yeah, this thing's been gone for months. It was there like in patch 6.0 and vanished from the game, never to be seen again. It was really strong back then, so we'll see how much better the block weapons actually are if they ever get their AoE Explosion back that they're supposed to have. But like Saber takes forever to fix like the most minor bugs in this game, and the parry bonus was reported on day 1 of the PTS server as like being broken for block weapons, and they didn't fix it. So they must have just carried over the build from the PTS server onto the live game with like 0 issues, or like 0 care at all. So that's kind of what it seems like. This was like an intentional nerf, and knowing Saber Interactive, guys, Saber nerfs things in this game all the time without putting them in the patch notes because they don't want community backlash, because they're afraid of what happened in 5.0, and like that's the truth. And like, to be honest, a lot of players don't even notice, because a lot of players don't even know how this game works with like the really nitty gritty with some of the things here. And that's fine, you know, not everyone's like reading like every single patch note, like every single like technical breakdown, but that's why they do it so players don't notice, and like the majority of players won't even realize as they actually read the patch notes, and that's why they don't put them in there. Hiking with a redhead in Brazil, bro's living the dream. What the fuck? Oh, is this a bot comment? I don't know what else I'm talking about. Besides the one they're already mentioned a lot of times on the channel, like Assault buffs, melee contested HP regen, chaos, crack slash hook, not targeting my Norse and such. I just see to add some personal gripes of mine. Combat knife, I really don't like the animations. For something that's supposed to be fast attacking, I feel very sluggish using it, especially with the heavy attacks. I like to either make the knives faster in animation or rework the whole movesets completely. Also, the perk tree could use some tweaking, obviously keep things within balance. I don't think the knife perk tree is that bad. I assume you're using the fencing knife, you think it's slow, because it's really not that slow at all in the block and balance versions in the relic tier. Add some sort of set repeatable mechanic that keeps us in a loop of earning and then spending our resources. I am stuck on 2,000 credits and 20 armory data, and I have nothing to use them on. Even if I purchase all the DLCs for cosmetics, I'd still end up in the same spot again. You know why they give you 2,000 credits? Why they have like the 750 requisition point thing for like changing out prestige perks? It's for that reason specifically, because they want to give you something to spend your credits on. And armory data, there is literally nothing for these. So like some cosmetics would be cool. Better loadout menu and reworks of perks are tied to particular weapons, definitely true. And nerfs to the strongest perks instead of making everything else better. This adds more power creep. I don't really agree with this because there are a lot of things in this game that just need to be made blatantly better significantly. And the most overpowered stuff in this game is honestly not that bad for the most part. It's just that a lot of the classes underperform dramatically, especially in the Hard Siege. Pistols, I'd say they could rework some of the perks to give other ones more utility rather than damage, just to make things a bit more different. Yeah, pistols definitely need a rework. Stunlocks and Ferrari roaches. Yeah, Ferrari roaches are very obnoxious. Stunlocks are kind of annoying, mainly against bosses though. Zone throws might be as annoying in siege mode, but I effing hate those fart bubbles. I don't think zone throws are like really a problem at all in this game anymore, and for the most part they hardly do anything anyways, even in absolute or siege mode, because in siege mode they hardly shoot you, and in absolute there's barely any enemies, so it doesn't really matter that much. And last but not least, fucking Vanguard bot yoinking my executes with the hook and me dying as a result. I've never really cared about people like execute stealing in this game, I'll be honest. I never found it to be that big of an issue because it's pretty easy to just grab whatever execute you're fighting, and people actually yoinking it from me, I mean, just hit the button faster usually is what I do, but I've had it kill me a couple of times. I think I would like some form of damage reduction on tactical. It just struggles on later waves in hard siege mode, especially if they aren't going to keep Auspex buffs and battle focus. I think it would make the class more balanced with some form of damage reduction. Also a chaos rebalance with less range spam, though they kind of pigeonholes themselves into being a range faction by choosing Thousand Suns and Tzeentch. They don't have much for unit range in terms of tabletop, and even less so in forms of melee units. As far as damage reduction for Tactical's already incredibly strong in this game. He's really like one of the best classes, and he's really more of a support class. Like, he's a range support. That's like his main intention. And you kind of just play hide and seek with him. If you gave him damage reduction like Conviction, like maybe that would be good, but he would be way too strong, to be honest, if he had like a proper damage reduction, in my opinion. Like maybe Conviction. Like Conviction goes in a lot of classes in this game, but I don't know. I'm not entirely sure about that. As an avid Assault enjoyer, I just want a way to handle chaos that doesn't feel like pulling teeth, and I want Thunderhammer to be his go-to preferred weapon over others. I don't feel like there should ever be just like a proper go-to weapon. They should all be interchangeable depending on what you want to play in that given moment and build around. But yeah, the Thunderhammer definitely needs a buff. My best hope would be to group all perks up into different categories and let classes choose based on class attributes from every perk in that category. E.g., Assault getting access to Radiant Impact from Tactical. That'd be way too strong. Radiant Impact, first of all, I don't know if it would benefit the Assault, because like his AoE is like already very, very good versus most enemies, and Radiant Impact like doesn't really fit him that well, to be honest, in my opinion. Because a close combat perk, I mean, just because it's a close combat perk doesn't mean it's really gonna fit the tactical, the Assault, which it does tactical, because tactical kind of lacks horde clear without like melt bomb spam. Assault does not. He just ground pounds guys. This way you can lean to different playstyles, more sniper and heavy, get more shooting perk slots. For example, Bulwark gets to take the most damage resistant perks if he wants to, but cannot take more than 1 or 2 shooting perks. But he gets to choose from a much larger list, if that makes sense. More customizable playstyles is never a bad thing. Maybe take a general perk away in return for access to more powerful perks. On the note of perks, I do want to say this, that this game, especially like the prestige perk tree, they have outright completely changed whole perks in this game instead of adding new ones. Like, they've kept the list of perks exactly the same when they could just add more options, and instead of doing that, they've just removed perks from the game and then just reworked them and things like that, and that's pretty much all they've done. But I think that more perks would be good, because the actual skill trees here are pretty lacking. But failing the obvious whole rework thing, I would like a general melee buff, maybe 10 to 15% light attacks, and let stagger if the enemy isn't attacking. Staggering attacks on like any enemy if they aren't attacking would be very, very strong. I don't know if they'd actually do that. Stagger in this game is very powerful for the most part, like more powerful than people realize. Let heavy charges on Power Fist and Hammer stagger blue regular attacks, and maybe Power Rake just to improve the general feel of how the whole close combat loop. I kind of agree with that. Like, there are attacks in this game, the Hammer and Power Fist especially, that do not stagger things that they should, and the no knockback perks in this game get knocked over by a ton of things in this game that they really shouldn't. I find I never do a light combo at all if possible in higher difficulty. You know how to actually use the moveset of the weapon. On the chainsword you definitely can, and on the knife very rarely, but yeah, for like most of the weapons, especially the Power Fist and like Thunderhammer, you hardly ever use them. I would also like something like Synaptic Burst for Chaos. It doesn't have to kill, just stun Minotaurus enemies, and maybe even make this change for Tyranids for more enemies to fight. I think Synaptic Burst is already a little too strong in Tyranids currently. It wipes out all Hormigons in like 2 bursts, which is kind of insane. And really, Chaos guys aren't that hard to deal with. They're Minotaurus enemies anyways. And like the reason they don't have Synaptic Burst is because, first of all, there's no lore reason for it. And also, on top of that, they aren't really built around it. Like really killing enemies after Majora's isn't the issue. As far as or make only Extremis and above kill enemies with Synaptic Burst, Majora's just stun no matter how many you kill. This might be a better change, but really, I don't think it should be for Chaos, personally. You could spin it as a psychic backlash to nearby enemies. I don't know. Biovores can no longer knock you over and maybe slow down their speed a bit and buff damage shots to the cannon to make them a fair bit less annoying to kill without Plasma. This is true. Like, Plasma is like the best way to kill Biovores at range. Their damage reduction versus everything else, especially bolt weapons, is fucking absurd because bolt weapons are so dependent on headshot multipliers, and Biovores knocking you over can actually fucking kill you in this game, and is one of the most uninteractable things in the game, period. And it's very hard to actually react to at all. You can actually perfect dodge it, but like the amount of times I've seen anybody do that, it's like single digit. Very, very obnoxious. Buff the Heavy Bolter. It has no place or purpose against Plasma Multi-Melta, which do hordes and DPS better. The Heavy Bolter she could definitely use with a buff. It's not bad by any means. It's pretty strong. It has way better headshot multiplier versus things like the Neurothrope, especially in Zoanthropes. It's just that in a world where AoE is king, the Heavy Bolter has penetration that requires guys to line up, and that will never be as strong as just shooting like a Multi-Melta or Plasma in the face. And also, Sword Warriors in this game put their little sword arms up and block all shots from all weapons and range, and that is even like Multi-Melta and Plasma, but these two weapons can open them up where a Heavy Bolter just sucks sitting there, and it's very, very fucking annoying, to be honest. Just a crumb of a buff for the Assault class. Yes, just a crumb of a buff, Snacky. Snacky6730. Every class and build I've tried seems fun and usable, like I'm contributing to the team as a whole, except for the Assault. Give the Assault some sustain, give it some health or ammo recovery, preferably health. Make the squad perks for Assault as attractive as the Vanguard and tactical perks. So this is true. These squad perks for Assault are fucking dog shit compared to all the other classes. Like, 30% gun strike damage is like the best one because everybody gun strikes. 20% more melee damage to Extremis and Terminus for strategic strikes is awful compared to like the flat melee damage bonus of Melee Champion for like a 15% melee damage bonus on Vanguard. And Vanguard only doesn't take that perk because he has 2 god tier ones with Unmatched Zeal and Inner Fire, so definitely true. Give him a buff perk there. I don't think the Assault is bad at all versus Tyranids, and like he really only struggles on the highest waves of Siege, but still, like, Chaos is no fun with him, and for the most part he's just obnoxious to play in a lot of the scenarios in this game. Other than that, I've had a good time across every class while besieging them. Heavy Plasma definitely feels like a one-man army. Nothing else I've played gives me the same feeling. Yeah, it's definitely the best gun in this game, especially for like the highest waves of Siege. Tactical Plasma, by contrast, is very, very underwhelming, but there are a good range of good alternatives, and playing Tactical with any of the bolt weapons has been fun. Tactical Plasma is still incredibly powerful. It's just that Tactical has to be played differently because he is constantly putting down Auspex, and he has a huge team impact even compared to Heavy at times, but Heavy is more damaging for sure. A meaningful team perk for Assault, true. Man can dream of many, but little he'll get. I assume something minuscule, like 5-second decrease on cooldown with Assault Jetpack or something like that would make sense to turn as every basic dodge and increase distance. Guys, you don't want this because this isn't actually how you want to play Assault. You don't want to like fly away from every enemy with like a basic dodge every time. That would throw you out of range for a lot of the melee weapons in this game and force you to jump back in and stuff like that. It should be an option to choose from like it is now. It should just have a commitment perk built in, and to be done with Jetpack instead of having charged for the heat meter. Give Sniper faster cloak cooldown and ability to use it freely. I mean, Sniper's cloak cooldown is already super easy to get back. No need to wait for the full cooldown. I don't really agree with that, to be honest, because it's very easy to get back for squad renewal. Like, half of his perks on his trees are like built to just give him back his cloak, so it's only an issue at all as is, as long as you're actually hitting your headshots. Also, perfect dodge perk that cloaks you reduce cooldown to 10 or less seconds. The cooldown on the perfect dodge for cloaking should be 0, and even then it would still be bad because perfect dodging into cloak is just shit in this game compared to the Pattern of Excellence. For Tactical, give the perk where he could use the Auspex as a beam cone scan where you look at and everyone gets marked for 5 seconds or so. Stuff that could actually spice up the gameplay and make more sense. That would be kind of cool for Tactical. His other 2 team perks besides Radiant Impact do suck right now. That's definitely true. Hellbrute's AoE is so ridiculously large, it feels silly having to back so far away during that second phase when the circle gets bigger. It is kind of insane how huge the AoE is, and it's really, really obnoxious when there's like 3 of them, so that's definitely true. I could probably use like a bit of a nerf or something. Assault's invincibility being lengthened, or a perk to give them an extra jetpack charge. And I don't know if he really needs invincibility with like the unyielding oath as much as he just needs to have like a proper damage reduction flat out, because damage reduction in this game is like super plentiful for all the other melee classes except for him. They also have healing options they can build into, but like overall their damage reduction is what keeps them alive more than his does. Also the fact that he should have like a 30% HP buff with his prestige perk in my opinion, because he and Bulwark are the only classes in this game that have 0 secondary weapons, or excuse me, 0 primary weapons. So giving them like the ultimate tank perks and like just giving Assault a little bit less because his damage is overall better, or like theoretically better, would not be a bad idea. But let's be honest, the Bulwark actually does more damage than Assault does in this game because he lives longer, and he also has a fucking power fist with an overcharge perk in his prestige perk tree. So I only know what they're cooking with this guy for sure. Fixed blocking weapons, true. Assault needs significant buffs in CHP category, 100% true, Argent. Classes underwhelming gets shredded post wave 20 versus Chaos and Hard Siege mode compared to the other classes, definitely true. Post wave 20, like 15 to 20, he's kind of like, like Chaos is annoying. Post wave 20 Chaos is very obnoxious, and post 25 Chaos, you're a liability. Basically how it goes. Like post wave 30 Chaos as Assault, that shit is awful, but 99% of people have never actually reached that to bitch about it. But trust me, if you ever get to like Assault wave 30, you're gonna hate it. It's fucking horrendous in the hard siege mode. Perk loadouts, more custom armor set slots for both class and general, make balanced weapons more viable. That's true. Like all the balanced weapons do suck. There's only like 2 good ones in the whole game, really more so just one on the power fist. Perk loadouts again, very mandatory, and custom armor slots, yeah, this game needs more drip for sure. Give Heavy the Power Fist / Heavy Bolt Pistol combo option. Make Assault recover 1% HP for every enemy killed by Ground Slam. That might be a little OP, but I don't know. Give him some. Like I've come around on this, guys. Like healing for the Assault class would not be a bad addition since all the other melee classes have some healing option. But the Assault class, like really, he just needs damage reduction and armor regen, because armor is more valuable than HP in Space Marine 2. And the Vanguard gets HP, damage reduction, and armor regen with his prestige perks. And like really, the Assault could very much use damage reduction, because like really what armor regen comes down to effectively is just more damage reduction, and it's like the best damage reduction in the entire game because it has proper damage caps, and you could definitely use that, and also stacks your damage reduction perks in general, except for things like Conviction that are health only, but still for sure. Make Bulwark's banner customizable so we can fly our own chapter. True. I'm gonna be hard for this because this needs to happen. Bulwark's banner not having like having only an Ultramarine symbol is very fucking annoying in this game. I would love to be like an Imperial Fist Bulwark. I think some mods have done this already, and like they're very, very fun to use. And I do wish there were more like cosmetic mods that functioned online, like the Battlefront 2 one, but like Battlefront 2 does this all the time, like all the cosmetic mods work, but unfortunately, you know, it's just where we're at in Space Marine 2. Give TAC Power Sword, definitely. Make Grenade Launcher recover 3 nades whenever the ammo procs when killing a Majoris. I actually think this is not a bad change, because grenade launchers really aren't that OP anymore, at least not in the siege mode. Like you know, 10, getting all 10 back was OP, but getting like 3 back or like 2 back, not too bad of a change for sure. Because you're kind of sacrificing your CHP recovery when you use the bolt rifle anyways, and like nades are like the main selling point of it, and only getting 1 back every 30 seconds is pretty brutal. Put Vanguard back to 10% per Majoris, but put the Extremis team regen down to 20%. Not a bad idea. I don't think Adrenaline Rush at 10% was that toxic, because like, okay, first of all, Unmatched Zeal is better than Adrenaline Rush was ever now in the siege mode, and a 10% change to Adrenaline Rush again would be pretty justified in my opinion, because the game's harder overall than it was back then, and like they changed his perk down to 5%, and they made his Extremis team regen fucking insane, and 20% on Unmatched Zeal, hell 15% on Unmatched Zeal will still be very, very strong. So I definitely agree that like 10% Majoris should be there for Adrenaline Rush, because right now like this healing on the team perk is all you actually need on the Vanguard class, and Adrenaline Rush is just kind of like not that strong anymore, to be honest. Give Sniper Chainsword and increase its range headshot damage by 20%. Giving the Sniper Chainsword would be kind of crazy. Range headshot damage by 20%. It's not really the worst idea. Sniper does kind of have to land headshots anyways to do any proper damage, especially with weapons like the Bolt Sniper that are like absolutely useless versus everything except Terminus and Majoris and Extremis. So definitely true. Like he might benefit a bit from more range damage on the headshots. Fix block weapons or to not getting the damage buff after 2 blocks, or excuse me, fix the block weapons not getting the damage buff after 2 blocks. They do get the damage buff, they just don't get the This isn't the problem with block weapons right now. They get the damage buff after 2 blocks. They just don't get the parry bonus. Increase the HP recovery on melee weapons. Definitely true. Make the perfect jetpack dodge. Refund base kit on the assault. 100% true. Buff or rework the Inferno pistol, bolt pistol, and Volkite pistol. For being honest, the only viable pistols at a higher level are the heavy bolt pistol and plasma pistol. This is like 90% true because some class setups can take other ones, but like for the most part, heavy bolt pistol and plasma pistol just like absolutely clap the cheeks of all other pistols in this game. So these ones do need a buff. So I really agree with like most of this, and don't really care about this change, but it'd be nice if crack grenades didn't stick to my Norse enemies. That's got me killed a couple of times on the assault. Crack grenades in general need a fat buff in this game. They are so shit compared to shock grenades and even like frag grenades, and even the especially the melta bombs. And sticking to my Norse enemies just like the icing on the shit cake for how bad these things actually are. There comes a point in siege mode where crack grenades don't even one-shot guys anymore when you stick them to like a sorcerer, and that's just awful. They are a practically useless grenade at a certain point compared to like melta bombs and shock nades that have like way more AoE impact. Similar to Vanguard, rework / buff a perk which will allow him on ability use to regain 1 armor when activating his ability. I think it should be in his signature tree, require you to choose between this getting a charge back on your dash on a perfect dodge. Having both would trivialize Tyranids too much. It might trivialize the Tyranids too much for sure, but like getting armor back on ability use or like CHP back would be very strong on him. That'd be a very cool idea. And like armor regen should be like the whole selling point of the assault class, because the assault class is like supposed to be the big tanky melee damage dealer, where a class like Vanguard kind of like slips in, kills guys, gets his HP back. The assault is supposed to be like, I'm a tank. I'm not quite the bulwark. I don't have a shield, but I am like super powerful. I'm very fast, and I can just move in, slam down, and stay in the fight. And armor helps you do that. And armor regen is very powerful for that. And I think he'd feel a lot better if he had more sources of it, because he actually feels pretty good versus Tyranids with armor reinforcement. It's just like versus Chaos that like all of his kit of gun strikes and stuff like that falls apart. Add a sort of checkpoint in horde mode so we can start from where we failed so we can improve better. That would be good. Like starting at wave 15 would be better for sure. A good assault rework, definitely true. Assault over the top, compensation super buff. I agree. Decrease how often Hellbrutes use their AoE attack in groups. They're not balanced for double and triple Hellbrutes, and it shows quite clearly. If the frequency of AoE attacks was kept the same for singular Hellbrutes, while if there are multiple on the field, it is decreased substantially, I think Hellbrute waves will be more enjoyable to fight, and not just a dodge roll spam party. I kind of agree. The AoE is especially the most obnoxious part, because sometimes they stack them together, and like one of them does like the super huge big one, and the other one does like the tiny one, and if you don't have a ranged weapon like Power Fist, and you can stay on the outskirts, you literally cannot attack them at all. It's like a melee class at that point. It's like you perfectly time like a jump pack dash back in. Very obnoxious, very irritating. So for sure, the AoE needs to be tuned down a little bit. Literally a Chaos rework would solve 90% of all problems. I can't believe I'm even seeing anyone say anything other than that. I mean, Chaos rework would literally fix Assault 2. Please, Saber, make Chaos not shitty range spam. My life is yours. Well, your life will never be theirs because they'll never do that, unfortunately, when to go. But I do agree Chaos could use a bit of a rework, especially for something like the Majoris guys. Introduce a veteran mode in Siege that starts as difficult as the current hard mode, level 16. That would be cool. Change assault perks so that he has more of a chance of survivability. Definitely true. At this point, don't even care. I need to add rewards to play for. What's the whole point of struggling at wave 20 to get absolutely nothing when you're done? Even currency and resources capped, 0 rewards. This game definitely needs like a proper penance system, way better than the current ordeal system is. As far as like playing past wave 20, it's really just for challenge. Like a lot of players do like just pushing games and stuff like that. But if you're not interested in that, I definitely get where you're coming from. Buff body shot damage to make the guns feel more useful, or further buff the headshot multiplier to emphasize the difference. Well, headshot multipliers are already very, very good in this game. It's just body shots need a buff for sure. I just want them to fix all the bugs they keep adding, like the broken timings and gun strikes not appearing. That's definitely irritating. Like gun strikes fading out of existence is very, very problematic. So that's for sure. Make perks of the cooldown display when they're available and when they're on cooldown. This is true. This game's UI sucks, and having a proper cooldown display on things like Radiant Impact is like such a fundamental game design that the fact it's on the game is just like embarrassing, to be honest. Full assault rework. I don't know if you know it needs a full rework, but you definitely use some serious buffs. Swap Biovore for a more interesting enemy. Yeah, I don't think they should swap the Biovore, just like rework him a little bit. And a Chaos rework of some kind to make it less range spam, more in line with the intended gameplay loop of block, parry, and dodging. This would be true. Make them melee more. That'd be my thing. Make the Rubric Marines teleport on you and try to melee you more often, and they would feel a lot better. Take away the max number of enemies hit with plasma and other weapons. Make warrior guard stances take less damage to break. Buff the weaker bolt weapons. Buff assault with some range damage defense after a dash by like 30% or 5 to 10 seconds. Not a bad idea. Actually, if you guys are unaware, there is a damage reduction from range attacks for like 1.8 seconds after perfect blocking in this game. So like, there's already like a precedent for something like this. Not a bad idea at all. Like range damage reduction is very strong in this game because range damage attacks are the ones that usually nuke you. As far as warrior sword guard stances taking less damage to break, I agree with this. Enraged sword warriors are like the most obnoxious enemy in this whole fucking game because they just sit there and like you just have to wait for them to open up for you because there's not nothing, but there are very few attacks that can actually stagger them out of their enraged sword warrior block stance. That's very irritating. A lot, sadly, the stun locks, especially in Siege, and grabs like lightnings on a clear sky just needs to go. Getting fists, I don't think the grabs are really that bad at all. Like a lot of this is just people don't know that like it's actually quite easy to see where most of the grabs are going to come from. Occasionally you will get like what do you call it, frame trapped, but if you're playing with your teammates properly, you'll get out of them pretty easily. Like in a 4-hour game, I probably got grabbed maybe like 2 or 3 times. Getting fisted the millisecond you come out of animations you can't break needs to go. This is definitely true. Some weapons need some balancing of buffs buffs. Obviously, contested health needs to be reworked completely, or at least heavily buffed. Those need to be reworked. It's pretty good for ranged weapons. Just needs a buff for melee. Received range damage needs to be reworked. Kinda for some enemies, sure, but like not all of them. Some enemies need rebalancing. Terminators shooting through textures is super stupid considering they mostly stand behind the entire swarm. I don't think the missile terminators are that bad in the siege mode anymore. There's a lot of ways to break their line of sight. Boss system in siege mode needs an overhaul. Having several bosses with insane AoE that sometimes go through walls on a very small CQC map is not hard. It's just unfun. I don't think bosses are as bad as people think up until like wave 25 plus. That's when they actually become hard. But like on like wave 15, it's pretty damn easy to clear them out with like an even semi-coordinated team. And also spore crabs, just fucking no. I don't really mind the spore mines in this game anymore, to be honest. Want to see Assault get the PvP campaign jetpack and ops and Siege a primary weapon like the bolt carbine replace dodging with jetpack dashes? No, this isn't what you want it to be. Like having a teleporting away dodge with every single button press is just not as strong as people think. It can actually fuck you over. You want the option to choose because that's actually better. But at least with the commitment perk currently, that's what should really be reworked. Is commitment should be as like a base function of the assault class. Sorry guys, my brain is rotting because we're pretty far into this list here. So he's a damn shock trooper like he's supposed to be. Lol. Bulwark already has pure melee covered. Jetpack dashes would take you way further than a dodge, but would have maybe a 2-second cooldown or a 5-second cooldown after every second or third dash. Something to balance it. That can be worked out by them. I feel like just give him the commitment perk, and then you have infinite dodges on the jetpack dodges anyways, and then just has a little bit of a skill cap to properly use them. I think that making it to where there are more options for damage reduction perks for melee, so you don't get absolutely busted by chaos or enraged devourers. I'm sure there's a way to reduce the damage if you're skilled enough, but Saber has to appeal to casual players too in order to keep the game alive. Well, there are, like, to be fair, Tyrell, there are like 6 difficulties in this game, and there are definite problems with range spam in this game, but like enraged devourers really aren't that bad if you know how to fight them. And a lot of players struggling would probably benefit from just turning their difficulty down, because if you don't know how to fight or like perfect dodge in the game, you probably shouldn't play it on the max difficulty. Like when I load up Call of Duty, I don't think to myself, oh, I'm gonna go play like veteran difficulty when I've never played a Call of Duty game before. That's not really comes across my mind. And that's why the game has multiple difficulty levels, because difficulty levels in a video game are going to be inherently gatekeeping at some point, because they're for players at different skill levels, and that's just what it's about. So appealing to casual players, that's why lower difficulties exist. Assaults should be able to use a limited number of primary weapons if they are using the chainsword or power sword. The primaries they have access to don't have to be the top OP metamet weapons, but simply having a primary would help their viability. I'm not really against Assault getting a primary weapon. I wouldn't mind them adding a new primary for him. I imagine he'll probably get the new power axe because it just fits him a lot, and hopefully that weapon's super strong, and hopefully by then, like melee weapons and CHP regen for them are just better in general. Introduce perks that buff survivability using the Thunder Hammer and Power Fist, so Assault has 2 distinct build options with high damage melee builds or more balanced one-hand weapon builds with primaries and high mobility. The Power Fist already has great damage reduction perks, the Thunder Hammer does not. Make Assault's jump pack refund on perfect dodge a built-in class ability 100% true, Boat Boy, and replace it with gain armor on jump pack use. It gives him a bit of armor gen and makes the leveling process feel way better because you don't have to wait until level 25 to get the dodge build going. Definitely true. Definitely a good idea here, I think, for sure. Inferno Pistol doing thrice the gun strike damage, a Thunderhammer AoE buff, and Assault Jetpack matching PvP counterpart, at least in Siege mode. Definitely true. I mean, just like that. I actually love this comment. To buff the weapons, to rework the god awful perks, let me choose indids only in Siege, and rework Assault. Yeah, people want Assault buffs for sure, so hopefully they actually give him those proper buffs. And, you know, the bi-weekly rant will come, and I'll probably be talking about Assault all the way up to patch 9, because hopefully Saber actually listens to the community this time and properly buffs him, because this is something that is properly within their power to do. It's not like they have to add in a ton of new content. They just need to like do some number tweaks on him, and they'd fix him pretty easily. Hell, they could give him perks that already exist in the game and he would be better. Some tweaks to the assault perks, which currently have good exclusive ones, like the choice between charged melee damage or extra armor on Gunstrike, either range damage or grenade recovery. Crack grenades are already dangerous when stuck on charging warriors. We need guns to catch them midway through. Also, a small stagger to prevent a suicide jump would be nice. This is true. Crack grenades are awful, and them sticking to Minoris is insane, especially since they kind of like suction cup to guys, and Minoris will just like kind of get in the way, and it'll just like completely take over your crack throw, which is just ridiculous. Darktide does not have this problem because Darktide makes it so crack grenades only stick to like armored guys, and the armored guys are usually the ones you're trying to throw your crack grenade at, so it's really not that hard. Bit gunstrike buff, gunstrike damage. Imagine what I think he's saying here. An AoE buff for the Inferno Pistol. Definitely, Inferno Pistol needs like the best gunstrike damage in the game because it has a limited range. Controversial, current heavy bolt pistol only for bulwark and assault. Quick nitpick: if a block weapon is better than all others, I'd like it to be the relic one. I don't really care if there are more like viable versions. I think this idea that like, oh, the relic has to be better, like it's just kind of limiting. There's no point. Just have every weapon be good. Like, I don't even like the idea of tiers of weapons, to be honest. I think tiering weapons is like the dumbest thing ever in games, where it's like, oh, this is a green tier, so it's just objectively worse than the other one. It's like the worst idea for game design ever, because really what you want in a game to make it more fun is to give players more options to experience the content in the game. And having like only one tier be useful is pretty stupid. So like having like 10 weapons that are all good with like cool stack combos, that would be better in my opinion. Stronger melee. Also give balanced weapons a reason to be in the game. For example, make balance fastest across the board with block hitting hardest and fencing because of the ease of use being the slowest and weakest. Again, though, a general increase in melee effectiveness across the board, while fencing is already like the slowest and weakest of all the weapons here compared to like balance, and except for like some of the really slow balanced weapons. But yeah, most of the fencing weapons in this game suck ass. For being honest, they're just parry sticks, and like a lot of the block weapons are just blatantly better at this point. But balanced weapons, there is one good one. Like the balanced power fist is very strong. That's like the only good one. But there's the singular option for sure. I said this last post. I'll say it one last time. A siege only perk column to choose ammo economy, health regen, damage, or armor. Then eliminate the crutch shield perks, and people can decide on the siege tree their option, and add modifiers in ops for a dynamic experience. Now somebody said there was a leaked modifier for ops actually. And like some of the things were like damage on dodge. Hopefully like whatever fucking clown came up with the idea of that, if it's actually real, has rethought their life choices and like what they want to balance this game to be, because if the modifiers are like that for operations, that would be horrific. And there were some really good ones in Darktide or Vermintide too they can pull from, and modifiers are like really good for horde shooters in general, so that's for sure. Make the chainsword rev charge you can keep like the Adrenaline Surge until your next attack. That'd be cool, but I don't know if they'll ever actually do that. Vanguard class up, literally shit. He and Assault deserve more love. I mean, Vanguard's not that bad. He's just not that strong. He struggles with ammo economy and proper horde clear at a certain point, but he's not like horrific. Assault definitely needs more buffs because Vanguard performs pretty well versus Chaos and Tyranids. He just kind of a heal bot at a certain point. PvP somehow disables ground pound buff for Assault. PvP somehow disable ground pound for Assault. Reduce shock grenades, blinding duration. I don't know anything about PvP. Do people actually play this game's fucking PvP? I imagine it's not a lot of people. But I mean, they keep adding stuff for it, so I guess they do. And minimum requisition points now dropping off the higher the wave you go. 5% health regen for Assault, or alternatively 30% faster jump pack recharge speed before charges and does not spend charge on dash. Health regen is worse for the Assault class than just like straight damage reduction, because damage reduction makes your effective HP way higher and prevents you from getting damage nuked, because the way you actually die in Space Marine 2 usually, it's not that like, oh my god, I didn't have like my 5% heal and got me up to 50%. It's, oh, the thunderclapping super punch just took off 90% of my HP, and a percentage damage reduction reduces nuke damage significantly more. It's like, if something's like 1,000 damage, you have a 25% damage reduction on it. That's really good to stop you from getting fucking nuked. And like having a fatter HP pool for the most of the game is not going to help you when like the one shot takes your like all of your HP down in one shot. The fact we can't stop an Assault Scarab Terminator combo with a perfect block explosion is bullshit. You can. You just have to do it. You have to hit him twice. Actually, I mean, because like the stagger effect of your actual block weapons does function for 2.2 seconds afterwards, and also like the Power Fist charge attack will stop them outright. And I believe the Thunder Hammer one does too if you hit him with both hits. Disclaimer: I'm not pushing high Hard Siege, running a lot of Absolute, but for Ruthless runs and waves up to 15 for Hard Siege, my issue isn't that Bioboards are too annoying, it's that the Spore Mines are. I don't think Spore Mines are a big problem at all anymore. I'll be honest. They have a 55% reduced damage radius, and you can perfect dodge them. They're really not that big of an issue these days in Siege mode. Maybe make Biovores buff the size and the speed or damage of Spore Mines, but reduce the amount spawned. If they were bigger and fewer, it would be easier to pop them. Also, it would allow you to actually punch them back with more melee weapons rather than just a few that seem to have massive and high swings that can hit them. Biovores themselves aren't the problem. Spore Mines not being dubbed is the problem. Spore Mines got nerfed in this thing by 55% for their reduced explosion damage. They really aren't that bad anymore. They're quite easy to deal with. Increased headshot multiplier for Instigator, rework all weapon exclusive class perks. I would say, yeah, this is pretty true. Like increased headshot multiplier for Instigator. I mean, Instigator could use a little bit of a buff. Same with Oculus for sure. I miss the old bolt rifle grenade launcher. No chance will return, but I like some tweaks being made. I do agree with this. Perk loadout and jump pack and jump dash on different timer than ground pound. No server issues. Complete redesign of the Power Fist. A melee weapon should have no place being a ranged weapon. I really agree with this, but more powerful / relevant bolt weapons. Like the Power Fist is actually fucking fun to use in my opinion, so I don't really mind it being just some like Falco punch weapon at all. Though its other attacks should be more useful for sure. More powerful, relevant bolt weapons could be done multiple ways. Making headshots less relevant would be one. Quality of life improvements for Vanguard to know which targets are below 33% for instant grapple finisher is definitely true. Let the heavy class dodge from heavy stance to make it feel less clunky. I don't think this is clunky at all. I think this is just like one of the only skill caps that heavy actually has. And it's not very hard to do once you learn like the actual timing. Damage reduction perks for assault. Also jetpack dodge, it needs to refund itself as a baseline, not perk. That's definitely true. I'll add more, but that's what I thought off the top of my head. Nerf Biovores, true. Not happening, but reduce enemy health, increase damage instead. No, I don't really think that's true at all. I don't think the enemy health is that bad until the highest phase of siege. Reduce most bolt weapons magazine sizes and no piercing, just to make the game more lore accurate. I think game balance comes before lore accuracy, to be honest. A perk for melta weapons that strongly buffs damage, but also reduces their radius. Same reason. Sure. Melee contested health gain and relic tier rebalance. Right now, the devs think 1 point cleaving is worth 2 points of speed or damage. Also, block and balance should have similar stats. I feel like block and balance should probably have similar stats because balance parry windows are definitely way worse than fencing. I like some sound redesign for some of the bolters. This is definitely true. The bolters sound awful in this game and they're way better in Darktide. I just feel like that's a way to make bolters feel more powerful. I feel like that contributes to why they feel bad. It's because their sound design sucks. Other than that, nerf Biovores, they're extremely annoying. The sound design in this game, it needs like a huge buff. And the bolters in Darktide sound super good. Also, the new Exterminator shotgun sounds super good, that's for sure. CHP for melee and a buff to unused primaries and secondaries. Yeah, definitely a CHP buff for melee and a buff to primary secondaries. Maybe some of them, not all of them, but definitely some. Balance parries insta-kill all enemies on screen. I know you're joking here, Brent. It was pretty funny. Allow offline progress to be saved in operations. I doubt they'll ever do that. That way, otherwise people can just load up with mods, play offline, and then get all the ordeals done in like one day. Oh, I guess you can kind of already do that if you find friends like fight in the private PvP lobbies. Hey guys, if you're unaware, I'll say right here, if you're unaware, you can just go into like a private mode in the PvP lobby and just go in with your friends and farm all of the ordeals. That does function, or at least it used to. Undo the Terminus 66% health buff, make them do more damage instead. The Terminus 66% health buff is hardly noticeable in this game in the first place, so if you get like a proper team at all, so not really a problem, in my opinion. And that's only like a 66% health buff to the major like end mission enemies. It's only 33% to like the end mission guys, which is like barely anything. I would not mind further class and weapon perk balance / overhaul. Yeah, that's pretty standard. Might be me not having the right build or something, as I just got back into Space Marine 2 after not playing since launch, but the tactical plasma rifle fucking sucks now, at least in my experience. It's like one of the best guns in the game, so that's definitely not true. On substantial difficulty, it takes like 4 charge headshots to drop 1 Majora's Unit, and that consumes like 80% of your ammo, and that's the purple tier variant. Well, I don't think the balance of weapons matters at all until you're actually playing with relic tier, and also there is no headshot on a plasma weapon in this game, first of all. And if assault doesn't get reworked in 9.0 is a bust. That's definitely true. I mean, not reworked, but definitely major buffs. Not necessarily a balance change, but attacks I feel like miss too often just because I watch one step to the right. So when I try to parry, I just sit there like an idiot taking range damage, especially bad on Rubric Marines who will just miss sometimes on flat ground while I'm not even moving at all. I don't know what we're talking about. Attacks if like miss 2 options because I said one to the step to the right. I mean, that's really like that's kind of true, but it's really not that bad. I'm fixing Vanguard's grapple targeting, also giving to Assault and Vanguard ammo perk. Vanguard should have the perk. Wait, hold on. Did I read that right here? Fixing Vanguard's grapple targeting, also giving to Assault and Vanguard ammo perk. Okay, it is just broken English. Vanguard should have perk that Sniper have restoring ammo by killing enemies as secondary. Assault should have Extremis execution ammo regain. I'm gonna assume this person's native language is not English, but yeah, I do agree. I understand what they're saying. They're like, yeah, the ammo recovery should be better on these classes for sure. I would like bolt rifle to be a bit more accurate. Every time I use it, I just feel like a bad heavy bolt rifle. That's definitely true. The bolt rifle perk tree is actually kind of interesting. It just doesn't really pop, you know. Its CHP recovery sucks, and like most of the automatic bolt weapons in this game are pretty ass for CHP recovery, which is why they're practically all B tier. Buff to the hammer, unique weapon that is unfortunately a crappy weapon compared to the other options. I don't know if they have to rework its stats or perks, but I'd like your opinion on it. The hammer should have more damage, or at least like more stagger or something like that, or have more knockback resist. So a big issue with the hammer and really like the assault class charge up attack weapons in this game in general is that things like Minoris enemies that like do like their little range attack, or you know, their little grab attack when you have the parry option to grab them out of the air, that is required for you to do something about. Like, there is no way, nothing you can do in Space Marine 2 outside of like straight up killing them or moving or parrying them will stop the Minoris charging at your face. And unfortunately, because of like the way charge up weapons work in this game, they take for fucking ever, and there's so much stuff in this game that forces you to move. Like, you have to dodge an unblockable. You have to dodge a Minoris guy when he's dodging at you. You have to dodge the Zoanthrope laser beam. And like, so that effectively makes the hammer aftershock like the hardest thing in this entire game to properly pull off at a double charge, and its damage feels pathetic for how hard it can actually be to pull that off properly, and doesn't feel very rewarding overall, especially compared to the power fist. Just punch this guy from like a mile away. Melee contested health plus assault survival, definitely true. More melee weapons for some classes. Having only 2 on Vanguard when they have so many melee focused perks just feels wrong. Yeah, I mean, more weapons in this game in general would be good, but yeah, only 2 on Vanguard. Like, we'll see. You know, there's only like 5 melee weapons in this game, and we're gonna get one eventually with the power axe, but what they actually do. Make Absolute a little harder by adding more Extremis. Yeah, Absolute could definitely be harder right now. Absolute difficulty actually feels way more well balanced than Hard Siege does currently, but it could definitely use more enemies for sure. Like, maybe not as much as Siege, but definitely put some more guys in. Siege mode should remove the attack limit on higher waves. I'd rather die and getting stun locked than getting one shot or fighting enemies that tank melta bombs. Yeah, AoE would just become pretty king, but like, I believe they did make the enemies more aggressive at that point. I've played mods where like the attack limit is off, and like it does just kind of become a clusterfuck, and it's like the game is clearly not built for it at all. But you know, that's just how it is. Give bolt weapons more oomph to their sounds. Allow dodges to cancel melee attacks like parries. That would be cool if they could actually dodge melee attacks, but like an instant cancel is very, very powerful in this game for sure. I will see some attention to the PvP, so I have a reason to play it more. I don't give a fuck about the PvP in this game. If they never touch it again, I don't care. I'll be honest. Like, man, it's a hot take, but I don't give a shit if they never touch PvP in this game again. I prefer they put all of their work into PvE, because that's what like 99% of the player base actually plays. I don't know what I'm begging them why I'm begging them to fix Assault, and I would love if Vanguard. Wait, I don't know what, but I'm begging them to fix Assault. I would love if Vanguard got the power sword. I don't know if Vanguard even be that good with the power sword at all. Just give it to the tactical, fits him a lot better. Buff melee contested health restoration, true. I like to see some balancing for PvP. I don't give a shit about PvP at all. I don't know if it's possible. If you auto target something, please make Vanguard grappling hook choose that exact enemy. Also boost CHP recovery for later stages on Siege. I think CHP recovery should just be boosted in general for like melee weapons. Just fix assault, damn it. Buff assault, buff assault. Yep, there it is. Just 3 assaults in a row. Nerf shock grenade in PvP. Nobody plays PvP. Melee contested health increase, just any buff to melee really. Yeah, melee contested health increase for sure. And assault rework. How long is this? Okay, not that long. An assault rework around damage mitigation, health recovery by extending a hammer. By extension, a hammer review. The risk/OP balance. The risk/op balance is just not. What the fuck is this? I'm assuming it's just in risk/reward. I've never actually seen it say it this way, but it's just not good in comparison with the fist. This is definitely true that like the risk of the hammer is not really worth it. Team perks of sniper and assault should also be reviewed. They lack of impact with other classes. That is true. Coordinate enemy charges. Having 3 Hellbrutes charging at you that turn keeping you in a dodge loop is not fun. Let us play, please. Yeah, Hellbrutes especially are very, very obnoxious. Not really a balance change, but still no FOV slider for console is pretty lame. Some effort from Saber would be a welcome change. Definitely true. Remove Spore Mines at all? No. I got disconnected 6 times last night and then I restarted my game. This isn't even a question. Anyway, anyhow, these are Saul needs a rework. Yep. If players aren't the recommended level of a difficulty, and they shouldn't be able to play it unless they're prestige. New chaos enemy type. If I could give heavy 4 armor and buff all the bolter weapons. I love bolter guns. Heavy does not need more armor at all. He's already like the strongest class in the entire game. And all the bolter weapons, they could use some buffs for sure. African servers, I'm tired of 200 ping at waves 25 plus. Sometimes it does feel like you get just like paired with somebody from across the world. That is true. This has probably been said a lot, but tweak the fucking contested health system. Yeah, we've already talked about this a ton here. Stop the one-shot death from sniper enemies. My god, there is no enemy in this game that one-shots you with a sniper, so I don't know what we're talking about here. A bit of a noob take because I'm not very good. I wish Sunlocks couldn't happen as often. Yeah, no knockback perks is a way to stop this from happening for the most part, but yeah, that's why they're very strong. HP regen perks for every character. Definitely not necessary in this game. HP regen is very strong in general, but like damage reduction is just overall better. Assault buffs, better melee, and delete biovores from the fucking game. Yeah, no, I don't think biovores are so bad it should be deleted. FOV slider on console, they probably should add that. Nerf heavy mobility. They are walking armor tanks with firepower to match, but it should come at a cost. Gravis armor should make them slower. This just feels so clunky. They already feel clunky at times just with the heavy stance, so I don't really agree with this at all. On the opposite end, Sniper and Vanguard get some more movement increases. Right now, the only difference between Tacticus armor and Phobos is boneless armor plate with no innate advantage to having lighter armor. Well, I mean, like, that's just the way the perks are set up. They try to give you the difference. The actual, like, movement speed of these guys is fine, in my opinion. Also, can you explain your opinions on not adding healing to classes? While the main reason siege runs can go 30 plus is because Bulwark is a heal to full. That can be used for the whole team. So the other classes can use some healing to stay viable, or Bulwark's healing banner should be reworked to do something completely different. Well, they've already talked about reworking the Bulwark healing banner. And as far as healing goes, healing is strong in this game. Like, I mean, it just makes it's a larger margin for error, but it's attached to classes that are primarily support classes. Like, Heavy doesn't have healing because Heavy deals like absurd amounts of damage, and his HP pool is very, very high, and he's already incredibly strong. And like overall, like if you like the healing, it's already in the game for like 90% of the team comps. Like most people play with Vanguard or Bulwark anyways. Like 2 out of 6 of the classes have a team heal option. So if Assault got like a third one, then that's half the classes in the game. And overall, for absolute operations especially, it doesn't matter at all. And the main reason siege runs can go 30 plus, yeah, they aren't really balanced for this game. So like for healing to become like this mandatory thing, you have to go to a point where the waves are so unbalanced that you literally have to just sit there and just like grind out the most meta tactics possible because their damage reduction is fucking insane. And as far as like healing on every class, I don't feel like people realize how strong healing effects actually are in this game. And like for the most part, like I'll be real, a lot of people complain about this game. They probably should just practice a little bit more or like lower their difficulty, because I see some like out-of-pocket takes all the time, and most of the classes in this game for absolute operations don't matter at all, and healing isn't even really necessary unless if you're just trying to go to 25. But yeah, 30 plus is really just more so a crazy thing in general. Anyways, that is all there is to this list here, guys. Thanks for watching if you're actually this far in the video, and if you like content like this, subscribe for more. I have no idea how long this video took. It felt like forever. There were fewer paragraphs than I expected, which like honestly I'm thankful for, but thank you to everybody who posted here, and as always guys, take it easy. Peace.